What's up, boys? We are back. The UFC has just announced a bunch of fights that I do want to talk about today. So let's get straight into it, dude. One thing I do want to mention is by the end of the year, we are trying to hit 700 subscribers. So it would mean a lot if you could just go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And let's talk about the fights. So the first fight I do have is Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. Just got announced, and this is actually a really good fight, and I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited to talk about this. So originally, obviously, it was supposed to be Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker, and that fight has been canceled. So we've moved on to this one. Obviously, these two guys have fought earlier in their career. I've actually rewatched this fight just to make this video, so let's talk about it. Justin Gaethje, Rafael Fiziev, the first fight was definitely really close. I don't think a lot of people talk about how close that first fight was. This is when Rafael Fiziev was coming up, and he was a top prospect. I think Rafael Fiziev had a valid argument for winning that first fight, and that's not ridiculous to say. He definitely did lose that third round. Justin Gaethje was showing his experience from the championship rounds, but Justin Gaethje didn't look too good in those first two rounds. I'd argue Rafael Fiziev could have won both of them. Justin Gaethje could have took one, of course, and that's how the judges saw it, but it was a lot closer than a lot of people say. So moving on to how I think this fight will go, I don't think it's going to go any different. Because look, buddy, if you're taking a fight on 2 weeks notice, 2-year layoff, no momentum, coming off 2 losses, I don't know, dude. It's not looking good for you, dude. It's not looking good for you. What are you going to do differently this time? There's nothing that you could possibly do differently when you're taking this fight on short notice. I mean, this guy, as soon as Dan Hooker pulled out, this guy was spamming tweets. He was spamming tweets like it was Fortnite ammo. Another thing I would want to talk about going into this fight is Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje's chin, you could argue that the man's chin has been cracked. You can argue the man doesn't have a good chin. I mean, in his first 2 UFC fights, he got knocked out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Justin Gaethje's never had that good of a chin. We need to acknowledge that. Justin Gaethje has had a pretty bad chin throughout his career. And it's crazy that he has a fighting style where he brawls, and he doesn't need to have a good chin for that somehow. But it's always worked, dude. Most of Gaethje's UFC tenure, he's had a bad chin. So, I mean, we've never seen him completely flatlined like how he was against Max, but I honestly just don't see that being much of a problem. I mean, Rafael Fiziev, I understand he's a hard hitter. I understand that the man has lots of power, but Justin Gaethje's a brawler, dude, and if anyone's going to try and brawl with Justin Gaethje, it's not going to be Rafael Fiziev. These two guys are going to put on a banger of a fight, and I'm excited to see who's going to pull it off. But like I said earlier, my prediction is that Justin Gaethje is, quite frankly, just too good for Rafael Fiziev. I don't think Rafael Fiziev is a main eventer, so my prediction is Justin Gaethje by 30-27 decision. I can't see Gaethje getting a finish for some reason, but the next fight I do have is Jamahal Hill versus Khalil Rountree. You know, this is a very good fight just announced for a UFC Fight Night in May or April. It's gonna be the main event, and I do think this is a very good fight between two good fighters, maybe one good fighter. Jamahal Hill's coming off that horrible loss to Yuri Prochazka where he pretty much got dominated. Khalil Rountree is coming off that good fight against Alex Pereira, where there was a very big narrative change. Before we thought of this guy as a top 10 guy, maybe he could sneak into get a couple good fights, top 5. But now we are actually viewing this guy as a genuine title challenger in coming years when Pereira leaves the division. How old is the dude? I don't really know. But I don't know. In terms of actually how I think this fight's going to go, I think I'm actually going to lean towards Khalil Rountree. I think Khalil Rountree has the better arsenal. I do think he's just all around better. He has more hard-hitting hands. And Jamahal Hill's kind of overrated. You know, this dude was a lightweight champion. Now when the division was cooked. The division was cooked when Jamahal Hill was champion. John Jones was arrested or something, wherever. He was dealing with that court case. Dominic Reyes was washed. Jan Blachowicz was washed. Everyone's washed in this division. That's when he was champion. He's not that good, and he's just a flabby. He's kind of chunky. He's flat-footed, and he has nothing else going for him other than his striking. And his striking is very predictable now. I think there's a lot of tape on his striking. So if we want to see a good, decent performance from Jamahal Hill, he needs to change a lot of things, dude, because he's not cut it anymore with that sloppy style that he has, that he got away with against Blobs at light heavyweight a couple years ago. You know, Khalil Rountree is actually built. He has lots of power, very explosive, and he can knock you out in one punch. We've seen that with Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith is great, man. Anthony Smith is a great win, obviously. I'm joking, by the way. And my prediction for this fight is Khalil Rountree by 4th round TKO. I think he's just going to out-cardio Jamahal Hill. Jamahal Hill's fat and chubby. He's not going to have much in him. So that's my prediction for that fight. Meanwhile, moving on to the next fight, we have Ian the Dream Silva taking on Brass Mitchell, brother. I'm actually really excited for this fight. I don't know why I sounded so sad to start off. This fight is taking place at 314, which looks 314 looks great, dude. I'm so excited for 314, and this card just makes me even happier. Gene Silva doing a really fast turnaround. That's what makes this guy so like. This guy A week after his last fight, not even a week after his last fight, he has another one announced, and against Bryce Mitchell. There's been some beef between these two guys, and the fight's been booked. The fight has been booked. Dana's punishing Bryce Mitchell after what he said. I do like Bryce Mitchell. Not his fighting style, not what he says out of the octagon. But in terms of how I think this fight's gonna go, I don't know who I'm gonna lean with, because I can see an outcome where Bryce Mitchell just lays on Gene Silva for 3 rounds, and that'd be really sad. I'm gonna be honest with you, that would be a really sad ending to a prospect that we've never seen before, or we have seen before. I mean, we've seen times where prospects who don't have grappling just get exposed, like Peyton Talbot just got exposed by Raoni Barcelos and just got laid on for 3 rounds. I hope that doesn't happen to Gene Silva, but I do think Gene Silva has an advantage in the striking. I think that's pretty obvious. Gene Silva is a striker primarily, and apparently the guy has good takedown defense. I'm yet to see much of that in his last couple fights, but you know, the fights have gone on like what, 2 minutes, and this guy has insane knockout power at featherweight, and he probably has the hardest. Is it ridiculous to say he's the hardest hitter at featherweight now that Ilia Topuria left the division? I don't think it is, so that's why I'm gonna go with Gene Silva by second round TKO. Sorry. He has lots of power, and I think Bryce Mitchell is really gonna pay. With all those comments he said, he's gonna get knocked out, and I could see it being a little bit of a sloppy finish. That's why it's a TKO, not just a total flatline KO. So my prediction is Gene Silva by second round TKO. Moving on to the next fight we do have. It's going to be a good one, dude. The next fight we have is a really good one. I'm joking, it's pretty mid. Jose Aldo versus Ariel Helwani. I don't know who the guy was before this fight, I'm going to be honest. What's the dude's name? Zahabi. Armin Zahabi, I believe his first name is. And obviously Jose Aldo, one of the greatest of all time. This is a really bad fight to make. I've seen a lot of people talking about how bad this fight is, so I'm just going to predict it. Jose Aldo by 30-27 decision. They could have given him such a better fight. Like, give him a legend. He's old now. Moving on to the next fight, we do have Lerone Murphy, bro, versus Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett, obviously coming off that fight in 2023. He hasn't fought since for some reason. He lost all of his hype now. I think he's ranked lower than he was in that fight. And Lerone Murphy, who is a fraud, if I'm being honest with you. He's a 32-year-old prospect. Max Holloway is 1 year older than him, and supposedly Max Holloway's career is all done and over. Meanwhile, this guy's coming up in rankings. Yeah, no, this guy's a fraud. This guy got stunned and rocked by Dan Ige, and Dan Ige, he's on the verge of being unranked. I love Dan Ige. He's a BMF for taking that fight on short notice. We'll talk about that a little later. But still, dude, when you're getting rocked by Dan Ige and you're supposed to be a future contender in this division, Dan Ige is a journeyman, dude, at best. And I don't know. Lerone Murphy's chin might be a little whack now. Who's to say it isn't? Obviously, Josh Emmett's one of the hardest hitters in the featherweight division. The featherweight division does have a lot of hard hitters. Maybe Josh Emmett is past Gene Silva in terms of hard hitting. I take that statement back from earlier. And Josh Emmett, don't forget what he did to Bryce Mitchell, dude. This guy completely folded Bryce Mitchell like a lawn chair. He made him have a seizure. So I think that sums it up how good Josh Emmett's power is. So I think I'm leaning toward Josh Emmett more in this fight. Lerone Murphy, I'm not very fond of. He hasn't shown me anything special in his fights. And I think he has a draw on his record too. So it's like, I don't know, dude. This guy's 14-0, maybe 15-0. I don't think this guy's that good, if I'm being honest. So that's why I'm going Josh Emmett by round 3 KO. Josh Emmett's gonna get it done. Not a sloppy finish. This guy's gonna fold Lerone Murphy, expose Lerone Murphy for the fraud he is. And that's it. That's my prediction. The next fight we do have, though, is the final fight I want to talk about. Volkanovski, the greatest featherweight of all time in my division, in my opinion, and Diego Lopes. Diego Lopes is obviously coming off that win to what's the dude's name? Brian Ortega, and before that, Dan Ige. I want to talk about those two fights though, because everyone bases those two fights and says, yeah, Diego Lopes has horrible cardio, bro. Diego Lopes is gonna run out of energy. He's gonna be gassed. He's gonna be gassed by the 5th round. And, of course, that's just how a fight goes, dude. I mean, Diego Lopes doesn't have bad cardio. I don't know where that narrative has came from. You look at his 303 fight against Dan Ige. Yeah, you could argue that he's gassed out in that 3rd round, but this man went through 3 different weight cuts. He was originally supposed to make featherweight for Brian Ortega. Then he was supposed to make catchweight for Brian Ortega. Then that fight got canceled completely. And the same day, this guy weighed in, I think, 165 against Dan Ige. Of course, he's gonna be a little tired after all that weight cutting and putting weight back on and off. That's understandable. And if you don't think that, well, then you're stupid, dude. I'm sorry. Damn. And let's talk about 306 fight. 306 fight. A lot of people say that in the third round he was gassed. Sure, he was a little tired, but that's how a fight goes, dude. This guy put it on Brian Ortega for 2 rounds, probably 10-8ing him in both, if I'm being honest with you. And maybe this guy decided to take a little round off. A man can't take a round off now. Like, just chill for a round. He already had the fight won. And, yeah, Diego Lopes has decent cardio. I won't say it's good cardio. And I think this guy's going to, all this he's going to be working on. If he knows he's going into a championship fight, he's going to be working on his cardio. Meanwhile, Volkanovski's coming off those 2 losses, dude. I know how good Volkanovski is. I acknowledge that. But Diego Lopes is a hard hitter in this division. And Volk's chin is pretty weak now, dude. Volk has a really weak chin. And I don't know where that's going to take him, dude. I'm not trying to be edgy. I'm not trying to say, oh, Diego Lopes might knock out Volkanovski. I'm not trying to be different, because I know a lot of people are favoring Volkanovski in this fight. And I truly do believe that we have something special with Diego Lopes, dude. I truly do believe that. And Diego Lopes has everything it takes to beat Volkanovski, an old Volkanovski. And I'm not going to forget what Volkanovski did in this division for years and years. And I'll never forget that, because Volk's one of my favorite fighters. I mean, how do you not like both of these fighters? So that's why it's extremely hard to pick a winner. Also, I want to talk about Diego Lopes. Everyone is on this guy's bandwagon, and all of a sudden, when he fights Volkanovski, everyone hops off. I mean, that just shows you how loved Volk is. And I still am a Diego Lopes fan. I'm going to be rooting for him, I think. I mean, he's pretty much Mexican. He trains in Mexico. But I think Volk is going to have to wrestle if he wants to win this fight, similar to the Yair Rodriguez fight, where he just implemented his grappling skills. You know, Volk is a great grappler. He went head and head with Islam Makhachev, arguably one of the best wrestlers in the UFC right now. So Diego Lopes obviously can throw up submissions. We've seen that in the Masvidal Evelev fight, where he was just throwing up submissions left and right. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. If Diego Lopes can truly defend all the takedowns and get some action on the ground when Volkanovski's taking this guy down, well, then Diego Lopes is probably going to come on top. But I hope Volk doesn't just, like, make the fight boring. You know, I'm not going to say that about Volk. Volk's never shown me anything to make me think that. But, you know, it's Volk. Volk needs a win. And if you're that desperate for a win, I can't hate on you that much if you're just going to lay on Diego Lopes for 5 rounds. You know, this is going to be a very fun fight. And I really am excited to see who's going to win this fight. Because, well, it's 314, and 314 looks like a banger card. Miami is looking stacked. Volkanovski, Diego Lopes. I think my prediction for this fight officially is Diego Lopes. Dude, I have to go with Diego Lopes. I'm sorry. Diego Lopes is that guy around here, and I think he's going to be dominating this division for years to come. Everyone's switching up on him, but not me. Diego Lopes by 48-47 decision. I'm not going to say he's going to knock out Volk cold. Oh, Volk's going out cold, bro. Volk's going out cold. No, he's not. But thank you, boys, for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. We're trying to hit 700 subscribers by the end of the month. Thank you. Out.